Hey everybody, in honor of Locktober, I want to make a video. Jeff Moss has coined October Locktober. That's like my favorite month now. So I want to make a video, and I had a friend of mine send me this lock in a bunch of different pieces, and he was having trouble getting it put back together, and I told him I actually figured out a trick on how to put these back together, and I'm sure a lot of you may know this already, but I haven't seen any videos on it, so I want to make a video on how to put an American 747 back together. Because it is kind of tough if you don't, if you haven't done a bunch of these, it can be kind of difficult. So just to show you, that is an awesome lock to have in your collection. So if you ever come across one, pick it up. You can look how big that is. That's a Master number 3 next to it. So just a big beefy lock. Look at that shackle guard, all solid, and you're not gonna be cutting that shackle or anything like that. So these things are beasts. And you can see here they've got a little bit different of a bottom than the common ones that you see too. Usually there's like just an armored plate with a rivet or a nut around it there. So anyway, I'm going to take it apart real quick. Basically, there's a screw back here. You take this out, and this is disassembly. So let's take that out. And then there's a pin in there that holds the shackle in. So you drop that out. And luckily, this one was nice. He worked on this one already, so luckily, that pin just falls right out. I got one, and I had to Dremel out this pin with a diamond tip Dremel bit, and carbide wouldn't even make a scratch in it. So I had to use a diamond tip Dremel bit, and I just had to chip away at it little by little until finally the shackle pulled out. So if that thing doesn't just fall out of there like that, you can lube it really well and see if you can't loosen it up with like some WD-40 or something. Or, the key doesn't want to fit. Or you can, neither does that one. This thing, it's pretty dry. There it goes. Pretty dry, but I didn't want to lube it. So now you just open it up, and the shackle should just pop right out of there. Maybe. Oh. There we go. So the shackle pops out of there, and then once you got the shackle out, you just here comes that pin. I'll show you what that pin does, and that's your shackle spring there, and that's one of the locking ball bearings. So pull this off real quick. That pin goes through this hole, and then that spring behind the shackle holds that in place. So that's what actually keeps this plate on. There's no screws or anything like that. It's the spring tension from the shackle spring when it's closed. And, in there, there's no way to knock that out. I mean, maybe if you beat on it for a while, you might be able to pop enough to slip that off. But by that time, yeah, I don't think it's possible. But it could be. But anyway, that goes in there. And then to get the core out, you just give it a tappy. Actually, I'll stick the key in again and turn it, and then I'll pull that out. So that's how to get the core out. And then it's a lot different core than a lot of people have seen too, than for an American. So it's got this cover over the Bible versus they're just pretty much standard Padlock cylinders, but this one's a little bit beefier. But okay, so down in there, you can see it's got your tailpiece or cam that the tailpiece hits. Anyway, that's what you can't really point to it since it's so far down there, but that's what the back of what this part here hits to make it to turn it, and then to let the ball bearings retract so you can open the shackle. So that just comes out with a tap or 10, just falls out, and then there's the other ball bearing for this side, and then this is your cam or tail piece. And then see, this is the part that it hits right here. When you turn the key, it's like this. The ball bearings are out. When you turn the key, it'll rotate it like this. The ball bearings can retract, and you can open your shackle. They just go in there like this. So instead of being like this and being out farther, they retract, and that gives you enough room to take off that shackle. So now putting it together is pretty tricky, and luckily I figured out this trick. So now one of the hardest things about putting locks back together with the ball bearings is getting the ball bearings to stay in once you drop them down in the hole. To get them to stay in their holes, I've heard of people using like Vaseline or some kind of grease to hold them in there. It kind of gives them a little bit more grip so they don't fall out, because when you drop them in there, they kind of always want to fall back. See them down in there? They kind of always want to fall back down the middle. So this lock is really easy, or a lot easier than most locks, because it will sit perfectly level. So I'm gonna have to do them one at a time. Anyway, so you just knock that into the hole one way. Just show you real quick. See, it's not in there anymore. It's gone. It's gone that way. And then we're gonna put this one in, and we're gonna knock it into the hole that way. Now, do you see what just happened there? You probably couldn't because there's no light, but here, I'll show you. You see what happened there? Like I said, a lot of people fight all the time to try to get those ball bearings to stay in, and they just won't. But watch this. Sorry, I'm not a lighting guy. See that? It can fall out of that hole right there. So if it can go out that way, that means it can go in the other way too. So you don't have to fight that one so much, because after you get everything put together, you can stick that one in through the other side. And that makes it a lot easier, and that's kind of the trick I learned. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one in, and then you can turn it this way. And now you can kind of work on it like this, but you don't have to worry about that ball bearing messing you up from the top. Now this is a tricky part as well. This tab here, that's spring loaded, goes in. There's a little recess. You can kind of see it there. Yeah, there you can see it. So that tab has to go in there. So now we just drop this in here. So now we've got only one ball bearing in. We just drop this in here like this. Make sure that stays on there. Push it down in there. And I just push it in with a screwdriver. And you just got to make sure that tab stays in that recess. Do you see it there? Right there. And so now that tab's in that recess, and that spring has to be overlocking that tab. Now here comes the tough part. The tough part is if you put the key in the lock, or excuse me, the core back in the lock, you're not going to be able to. It won't go in all the way. And basically, what's happening is the tailpiece of the cylinder, or excuse me, the core is hitting that little offset right there. So that offset needs to be rotated almost all the way around, so just over 180 degrees. So it has to go from here to here, and I'll show you what happens. That's a horrible illustration, but anyway, when you try to rotate that, it always wants to come back because it's spring loaded, and that's how the core always wants to snap shut. So you have to load that spring somehow. So here's what I did. Here's what I figured out to fix that. Okay, so now you put now that you have it like that, you put the ball bearing in, you put the other ball bearing in, and if you just put it down this hole on this side, now it's in that recess. You can see it right there. So now what you want to do is you want to put the shackle in, and you might have to turn this a little bit with your screwdriver to get the shackle in. So now you got your shackle in, but you can see here that your tailpiece or your actuator is still at the same position. Now, like I said, the hard part is getting that to the other position. Alright, so I had to change setups a little bit, but hopefully to show you the trick. or the tip. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out on the shackle with my finger like that. And once it gets to the point that I want to, you'll feel it release. And then as long as you hold it there, you're not going to have any trouble getting this back together. And now I'm going to show you, okay? There's one position. Now I just have to go 2 more positions. See that? Oops, gosh, that light's pretty harsh. Alright, so there's one position. Now I gotta go 2 more positions clockwise. And there it is. You see it's in the right spot now. So now, when I put the core in, it's going to line up perfectly. And when I turn the key, it's going to release the shackle. So I want to show you what you're up against if you don't pull on the shackle while you're doing this. See that? It constantly wants to rotate back to that original position. And that's if you don't push in on the shackle. There's really no way that I've found to get it to stay there. The first one I put together, I cleaned the heck out of it, and with just like dumb luck, I was able to get it to stay just by the friction, since there's no lube in it or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get it back to the other side, and then we can finish putting it back together. A lot easier second time over the camera. There we go. Now the core's in, the actuator's in the right spot, and your tailpiece is matched up with it. You can see it's sitting flush in there. And it's as easy as that. I know I made it look so difficult, but if you do it a couple times, you know, you'll be fine. So now I'm going to show you, now that you have it all put together, how to get the shackle and spring back in. Because I'll show you, if you just put the shackle spring back in. Oops, I take the key out. Oh yeah, when you take the key out, make sure you use something to hold that core in. Because after you put in all that work and sweat, and blood, try to get that in, if you pull on that key, it'll just come right out. You have to start all over. So I'll show you why you got to come in from the other side. So if you put this in and this in, it's not going to leave you enough clearance to be able to get that back on there. It's not. I fought with it forever trying to get back on there. And that's when I realized the ball going through the whole trick on the other side. So now you put your key in, you unlock your shackle, you pull it completely out, and then you let that ball fall out if it wants to. There we go. So now that ball's out, I guess you can't see that. So now that one came out of that side, you can pull your key back out. Okay, so now that you got your core installed, you just have to put the shackle in, the shackle spring, and your armor plate. So to do that, it's pretty easy. You just slide your armor plate on with nothing else in there. You drop your shackle retainer, this big metal lug here, down in there, and it should just fall right back in there. So now that's keeping that from sliding off, but if you don't have any tension on it, it can slide right off of there. So that's what the shackle spring does. It keeps that tension on there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this ball back in on this side, since we know we can because it came out the other side. And this is just a little bit of trial and error here. There you can see you just kind of stick it in there, and then you wiggle it until it goes in where you want it to go. Yeah, you can see it in there right there. And this one's still in there. It's not going to fall out or anything. So now, after you got that in, you put your shackle spring in. And this is going to have a little bit of trouble going around that locking ball, that ball bearing, but something you can do. You can just retract those balls now. And then it just falls right down in there. You know, if that makes you nervous, you don't want to hurt your spring. You just turn the key. And there. It went right past. And now it's in there. And now, all you gotta do is put your shackle in. Or, I guess, that's not the last part, but put your shackle in, you turn it, it's locked up now, and you can see that's not going anywhere. Then you drop your pin back in to hold your shackle in, or else it's just gonna pop out of there, and everything's gonna go all over the place when you go to use it. And then you put your retaining screw in, or your shackle. And there it is, all put back together. Works perfectly. You're not gonna have any problems with this after you're done. Now, I just realized I'm gonna have to take it apart again because I forgot to put his anti-bypass wafer in there. So I'm gonna have to do that again. But I think it's gonna be a lot quicker since I'm not working over the camera. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video and hope it taught you something. And like I said, this is the second one I've ever dealt with, and when I found that out, I was like, oh man, I gotta tell people about that, because I've never seen a video on assembling these. They can be a pretty big bear, but I know I made it look a lot harder than it is, but when you're not working over the camera and stuff, it'll be a lot easier for you. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I was gonna tell you, I'm on Twitter, at LockButcher. I'll put it across the screen here, but I'm on Twitter now, and I found that is an awesome resource for learning about lock sport. If you're new to it, or if you're a seasoned vet, you can meet a lot of cool people on there that are also into lock sport. So check that out. If you're not on Twitter, or if you're on Twitter, basically if you go to my Twitter page, follow everybody that I follow, because they are all it's just all lock sport people, and they're just awesome. All of them are cool people. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your October, or Locktober that is, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Sorry, I'm trying to work on the camera here, so I'm so you put the ball in this way, and you go straight in. There it is. Okay.